Good morning, student. I hope you all are doing fine. Alright, students, so we'll be starting with the last chapter, that is citizens' rights in a democracy. First part. So which means in the second video I'll be uploading the second part of this chapter. So our topic of discussion for today is characteristics of rights. Why do we need rights and fundamental rights guaranteed by the Indian Constitution? So basically we'll be learning about this very three important topic under the chapter. So for that you will find even in your textbook under page 204, 205 and 206. So you can take note of that. Likewise, you can even open your textbook, and as we proceed with our discussion, you can even go through your textbook as well. Alright, so our aim to achieve today is that you will be able to describe, that is at the end of our video explanation, you will be able to describe why rights is essential and why right is necessary in a democracy. Alright, student. So when suppose somebody asks you what is rights, or what do you understand by right, or if someone asks you define rights. So if the question is asked what is right or what do you understand by right, so you all have different answer, you all have different thinking, and you all might have different perspective according to your understanding of the definition of the word rights. So rights can be defined in many ways, right can be understood in many ways, in many languages as well. So see, rights are described as the basic principles of a civil society. Alright, student. So rights are those conditions of life without which no man can seek to himself at his best. So they are freedoms and power that are necessary for personality development and common good. So all major constitutions of the world, they have guaranteed to their citizens certain basic rights that is enjoyed by all the citizens, irrespective of whether they are from the lower caste, from a higher caste, whether they are rich or poor, whether they have different skin color, whether they are a boy or a girl, whether they belong to different religious group. All of them, they are guaranteed under certain constitution, that is guaranteed by the major constitution of the world. And then see, this right give a citizen protection against the state, becoming autocratic, that is not ruled by one individual person but rather by a society, and that is why they are called fundamental rights. So similarly, even in India, we have certain fundamental right, that is to protect an individuals. Alright, student. Now I hope you are clear with the meaning of rights. Now, this is actually what are rights. So these are what are rights. So the 4 point mentioning out here is in Canada and other democracy, citizens have certain rights. Alright. Point number 2 here, it says a right is a privilege or freedom that is protected. So that is very simple to understand. Rights are not usually provided automatically, which means they are usually fought for and claimed, which means right needs to be claimed. Example like every child has the right to learn. That is according to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. Okay, so all those are the definition and the meanings of right. I hope now you are clear with what are rights. Now coming back to the what are characteristics of right, So what are characteristics of rights? So see, there are basically A, B, and C. There are 3 points mentioned in your textbook. You will come across that. See, rights are, like I say here, rights are not ultimately gained; they need to be claimed, right? So rights are claim of a person over other fellow being. So over the society and over the government, rights can be claimed. So rights are which everyone can claim. So to claim a right, it must be reasonable. So if there is unnecessary thing or not reasonable enough, which means that right cannot be claimed. So in order to claim a right, it must be reasonable. So a reasonable right does not allow you to hurt or harm other people, or others. So you cannot claim something as your right if it is infringe on other person's right. Alright, or for example, you have a right, that is to play any game inside your own garden, but you do not have the right to break your neighbor's window or trample their garden. Okay, so similarly, you have a right to play music till late at night, that is in your own house, but you do not have the right to use loudspeaker and disturb the whole neighborhood. So that is something right need to be claimed under a certain reasonable condition. And point number B is right have to be recognized and sanctioned by the society we live in. Why? Because man does not live in isolation. Okay, we live in a community, we live in a society, so he or she must get along peacefully with all other members of the community or society he lives in. So a society has certain rules and regulation which citizens must abide and follow by it, and it is the collective responsibility of the member of the society to cooperate with each person. So that is another characteristic of right. And the last characteristic of right is right become meaningful even when guaranteed by the constitution. So if only they are enforceable by law. So if they are not enforceable by law, which means right does not become a meaningful one. So history in full of example where certain section of society held special privilege that did not apply to the common people. So fundamental rights are a declaration and assertion of the fact that no such privilege exists anymore. So there is perfect equality between different section of community in matters necessary for protection of the citizens. So in the context or in the Indian context, such rights were considered very necessary. Okay, so Indian society suffer from a number of social inequalities based on caste, which means based on higher caste, lower caste, middle caste, and based on economic status, like some are rich and some are poor. There were lots of differentiate between a rich person and a poor person. Okay, or even gender between men and women, there were no equality. Means women, they were deprived of their rights. Right, that is, we are talking about the context of India. Okay, so Indian society also suffer from a curse like untouchability. We also have a group called untouchability, okay, who does not belong to any of the other four tribes, like the Brahmin, the Kshatriyas, the Sudras, the Vishyas. Those untouchable, they don't belong to those any other of the other four tribes, four castes. So they were deprived from the right. That is, they were deprived from any privilege in the society. So it had to be removed. So it has to be ensured that in the free India, all citizens enjoy privilege that is offered by the state on a uniform basis. So if this right were infringed or violated, then the citizens could go to the court to protect their rights. So those are the characteristics of rights. Alright, coming back to why do we need right, or why right is necessary. Right, so see, right is very much necessary because if you don't have right, you cannot do anything in a society. You cannot raise your voice, you cannot, alright, you cannot fight for your own, okay, you cannot voice out your grievances. Alright, so right become very necessary, especially in a democracy. Okay, so see, here the point out here given out here, see, there are 2 points. Okay, so what is the point actually trying to say? Rights are necessary for the very existence of democracy. So every citizen has the right to participate in the democratic process. So additionally, every citizen has the right to become the part of the democratic government. So part of the democratic government, that is why right is necessary in a democracy. And another one is like right protect the rights of the minorities against the majority. So in a country like India, we have minority majority group. Okay, so the right, it protects, right protect the right of the minorities, that is people or citizens belong to minority groups against those of the majority group. And things can go wrong when some citizens try to take away the rights of others. So because of that reason, right is very much necessary in a democratic countries or in a democracy. Okay, that is to give each and every individual's freedom or the right, okay, to claim if they have a reasonable, okay, if the rights are reasonable enough, right? So every person, they can claim the right regardless of whether they are from a minority community or from a majority group. So all of them, they are treated equally on a uniform basis in a democracy, and because of that reason, right is very much essential in democracy. So see, right are necessary, okay, for the very sustaining of democracy. Without right, democracy cannot sustain. So in a democracy, every citizens, they have the right to vote and the right to elect and the right to be elected to government. Because of that reason, according to the universal adult franchise, every person who are 18 years and above, they can vote, right, in an election, regardless of whether they are boy, whether they are girl, whether they are black, or whether they are white, whether they are minority or majority. Each and every individuals, they have right to vote, okay. And not only that, they have, okay, they have right to contest even in election. So it is necessary that citizens should have the right to express their opinion from political parties and take part in political activities as well. So because of that reason, therefore, some important rights need to be placed, okay, higher than the government, so that even government cannot violate them. So in most democracies, the basic rights of the citizens are written down in the constitution, and they are known as we have learned, the fundamental rights. Okay, they are called the fundamental rights. So see, rights are reasonable claim of individual recognized by society and sanctioned by law. So that is, okay, to sum up why we need rights and what are rights. Okay, to sum up, rights are reasonable claims of individuals recognized by the society and sanctioned by the law. So because of that reason, we need right, and we have also learned the characteristics of rights. So moving ahead, in continuation of uh, why do we need rights? Okay, why do we need right in the democracy? Rights are necessary for the very sustainable of democracy, as we have learned. Right in Indian constitution, what is fundamental rights? So see, some rights which are fundamental to our life are given a special status. They are called fundamental rights. Okay, so in simple definition of the term fundamental rights means some rights which are fundamental to our life are given a special status comparing to other rights. Okay, so they are called fundamental rights. Alright, so now the next one is right guaranteed by the Indian constitution. Alright, so our next topic of discussion is right guaranteed by the Indian constitution. So see, according to the constitution law and legal article on relationship between fundamental rights and directive principle of state policy, right, it need to be under a constitution. Okay, it need to be guaranteed by the Indian constitution. So the constitution of India has guaranteed a number of fundamental rights to all its citizens. So this right give a moral character to the state. So the state cannot turn into an absolute ruler and act arbitrarily against the citizens. Since these rights are enforceable by the court of law, the individual is protected against the tyranny of the executive as well as the legislative wings of the government. So fundamental rights have created a new equality within the country. So right, they are naturally classified as civil, political, economic, social and cultural rights. Okay, so what are civil rights? First of all, what are civil rights? So civil rights are the right to live or the right to life, to equality, the right to family, right to freedom, to acquire and own property. All those rights cover under the civil rights. And what are political rights? Political rights are the right to vote, to contest in the election, and to seek any political office. So that is that comes under the political rights. And under economic rights, there are those are right to work, to earn a reasonable wage, and to fulfill basic needs. So those rights come under the economic right. And the last one is the social and cultural rights. So social and cultural rights are the right to religion, the right to speak one's own language, rights to culture, to get education, and to lead a decent life. And some of the rights are granted to individual, example the right to live, and some are granted to communities, example like right to culture and education. Some rights are guaranteed to every person living in a country, whether one is a citizen or not. For example, the European, the Bangladeshis or the Sri Lankans have certain rights in India along with Indian citizens. Okay, so these rights are guaranteed to India also in other countries, like example Indian in the United States to have certain rights. Okay, some right like that of the American citizens. That is kind of right that is guaranteed to Indian citizens even outside their countries. So some right can be exercised at a certain age only. All right, so not every age group they can acquire every rights. Okay, it which means that some rights out of many rights, some rights they can be exercised at a certain age limit. For example, the right to vote is granted only to the person who is 18 years old, right? So the right to contest election, it is given to citizens who have achieved the age of 25. Okay, so please take note of that. So it is necessary to remember that rights did not come into existence all of a sudden. So rights changes with the change in society. As with the changes in society, there were lots of changes even in rights as well. So you have read about, okay, we have read about the French Revolution. It put forward a declaration of the rights of men. So it proclaimed that all citizens are equal in the eyes of law. Okay, so that is a revision for you. So in the same year, the United States of America added a Bill of Rights to its constitution. It gave the American citizens rights such as freedom of speech, praise, religion, assembly, and to petition the government. So in 1948, the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So please remember, in 1948, the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So you'll find in page number 206, you can underline that it was it was a milestone in the history of men's struggle for rights. Okay, it recognized as fundamental rights the following: that is the right to equality, liberty, and security of person, freedom of opinion and expression, as well as the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and the right to own property. Okay, so those are some of the topic which falls under fundamental rights that is guaranteed by the Indian constitutions. So that's it for our discussion. Likewise, I hope now you are clear with what is right and what are some of the characteristics of right and why we need right. Okay, so rights become very important and it plays a crucial role in a democratic countries like India and most of the countries as well. So now the things to do part is your homework. Okay, so your homework, your assignment for today is you will even find under page number 213. So you have to make a list of fundamental rights that is used in your daily life. Okay, so you have to copy down the given point into your notebook. So you have to make a list of fundamental rights that you use in your daily life, and you have to copy down the given points into your notebook. That's it for discussion. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video.